So I was going to come down the hallway.
With over 78% of events in 2021 launching a hybrid model for conferences, fundraisers, and even trade shows, now is the time to start making plans to bring together your virtual audience and your live guests joining in person. But first, what is a hybrid event? What are the benefits of creating a hybrid event? And how exactly do we do all of this? My name is Addie Graham-Kramer, founder and CEO of the Event Company. We're incredibly excited to have you all here today for Hello Hybrid. Now, before we dive into today's session, I just want to introduce to you some of my favorite besties in the industry. Callie Troutman of the Event Company. Got Jeff Muslar from Pinnacle Productions and Chris Hintz from Pinnacle Productions. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here today.
It's going to be a fun conversation. Did you guys get the black memo?
I think we did.
Barely.
Well, welcome to all of you. We are going to be talking things all hybrid today. We're excited to bring everyone back together in our in-person industry, but we have to take things slow, right, everybody? It's a new world out there, kind of bringing in those virtual guests and bringing everybody back together in person. So we're going to be talking all things hybrid today. But first, we want to hear from you guys. So we want you to take the poll that's going to pop up on your screen. Just tell us a little bit more about your experience in virtual and hybrid events. Right now, you can kind of see the couple questions that we've got up there. Have you hosted a virtual event? Have you hosted a hybrid event?
Yes.
And do you plan to host a hybrid event in the next 12 months?
I'm excited to hear the response.
I think
on the
all of
third
you
one.
should have said yes. Actually, I saw Jeff's like, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's so weird being on the other side of the camera.
I know,
here.
it is.
I usually can wear sweatpants and not talk anymore. It's been a while.
Chris got his hair did for today,
I
too.
did. Yeah, high and tight, like normal. Yep.
So let's keep those questions kind of coming in. We'll take a peek at the results here in just a little bit.
we got a behind the scenes camera too. We can cut to so you guys can see. That's what we came in on. So we'll fire that up too in the interim here. You'll see some behind the scenes shots of what our studio space looks like and what goes on. Oh, you can see it. That's Mario. Shouts out to Mario here. He's got a beautiful white cord in the frame. That's.
We've got all of our team here today. So we've got individuals that are helping to moderate. We've got behind the scenes text, camera, lighting. We were just putting up some drape just a few, literally seconds ago prior to us going live. So things are always on the move in our world. But
you'll see that the virtual hybrid side of things takes kind of a whole different group, a whole different set of equipment. It's just totally different than what we've probably ever been used to before.
Yeah, and it's new, but we will come back to those survey results. Just want to kind of see.
The results are there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mason.
I can't actually. Thanks so much. Do you want to read that to me? Who's the one who needs readers today?
Let's go, Chris.
Maybe it's me. So the first question was, have you hosted a virtual event?
Yeah.
73% of respondents said yes, while 27% no.
Good.
Have you ever hosted a hybrid event? 45% yes, 55% no. So
Actually, that's a lot higher than I was expecting.
I was too. Yeah, I figured it was either going to be virtual or live.
Yeah.
It's kind of the world we've been in.
Right.
Do you have plans to host a hybrid event in the next 12 months? 80%.
Here we are.
80% said
There we
yes.
are.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, like we've been talking for weeks now. When this last study just came out, just actually a week ago from our friends at Pathable, the overall world is right now at that 78%. So if your city is open, we're at that 78% mark.
Yep.
So it's really interesting to kind of see how things are. But when we kind of dive a little bit more into it, I want to make sure everybody understands what these kinds of events are. So let's set the stage. We've got our live in-person events.
Yep.
We've also then got our virtual and our hybrid. Callie, do you want to talk a little bit more about what each of those three mean?
Yeah, I think live is obviously what we were used to pre-March 17th or something date around in South Dakota, what that date was.
St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, I think is
how
what it
remember,
was. Of where that's the typical in-person only. You truly are just gathering your guests together. Even minimal elements of things being sent out to guests, way more private type of events.
I'm glad you said that they're in person because sometimes people confuse live. They're like, oh, it's live on the TV. So we have that conversation a lot. That it's also that education piece.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said the in-person piece.
Yep. Truly kind of your guests are sitting in chairs there in person. Whereas we had to move completely, in most cases, completely virtual here in the last few months of where that is truly, and there's multiple platforms to do it, but truly hosting it over the internet, virtually. No aspect of anybody gathering at all.
It's crazy that we've been doing them for almost 11 months.
Right.
Do you remember some of our first ones? They were nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been doing virtual components of events for years, right?
That's a good point.
Like we've been doing Zoom, like people are like, oh, you had to probably get used to the platform of Zoom. Well, we've all been Zooming for years because we've got clients really all over.
Yep.
But to integrate it in where you're hosting an 8-hour event on Zoom is so different.
And then keeping it all interactive and entertaining, engaging, which was definitely a challenge.
Jeff got some more gray hairs, I think, during this time.
Yeah, it was
in those first days, right? Like all of us weren't sleeping, but Jeff.
It was rough. So I think the biggest challenge we had is it's a learning experience for us. Regardless of your experience in the event industry or the broadcast industry, it's a different world, right, for everyone. So there's no one that was really ready for this in its entirety. And you add on the clients, right? So you're gonna have the best client in the world, but still a challenge for them.
Right.
So you culminate your own challenges with their challenges, with the venue, with everyone's challenges, and it becomes 3 times as labor intensive and very mentally exhausting.
Yeah, I just said that yesterday to somebody too. I said it is mentally exhausting, and we're going to talk more about that today because hybrid events have their own challenges, but there are so many incredible benefits of them. But what's a hybrid event then?
I mean, we're truly trying to marry the two.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the exact matter of you may. It's going to look different for everybody. It's going to look different for everyone's location, city ordinances, state ordinances, whatever that all it's going to look like. But it's truly trying to marry the two of whether it is you're going to probably see a smaller group live in person, but then still incorporating virtual elements so people can watch the same program, engage in very similar ways from home as someone who is in the venue or wherever location that the live event's being hosted. So.
Yeah, 80% of things that you normally do in person can be done virtually, truly. And I think that's where people kind of get a little nervous because we always say, like, don't focus on what you cannot do, like, what can you do? Sure. So it's just kind of flipping the script a little bit to figuring out what we can do. But yeah, really, that stage piece of it is really merging the live experience with our virtual group. So that's really what the difference between the events are. So if we kind of talk more through about like the little secret that nobody really knows much about these events is that it's it's hard, right? Hybrid events are hard. You got double H's, right? Hard, hard. So you've got double the work, you've got double the staff that you need, you've got double the event hustle, all pre-event. Don't you feel like that? It's just double, double, double all the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tired, Addie.
Yeah,
I'm very tired.
I know.
But I think from
And he's
the
not even
client,
elaborating on that, so
I'm
he's
just tired.
Yeah.
from the client side, though, I think it's in some capacity been very rewarding.
Yeah.
I think especially from our end, and I mean, you guys are
Right.
our partners in it, but like I think of nonprofits in this time.
Sure.
Right.
And how obviously they had to, completely pivot, and they're like, how do we fundraise? Like, we need these
Right.
dollars to move forward. Like, I want to be creative, and so now it's looking to see them creatively and knowing that it is going to be double the work. But I feel like in a sense, like making it happen now
Yeah.
is like double the
Reward,
benefit,
too.
the
Yeah.
reward of it.
Absolutely.
That feels like we're making a difference. We made it happen, and
Yeah, and some people that are watching today, I kind of just want to share a little story. It's like we get up at 5 a.m., right, to prep an event. Picture yourself like running an in-person event. You're out of bed at 5 a.m. You're on site, right, for breakfast service. Get everything going, get everything started. Everything's all solved. It's all looking good. Everything's all pretty. Everything's tidy. Things are running smoothly. And then guess what? You have to do it now again for your virtual guest. So it's like you have to keep on going and keep on going. So from our side, events and production-wise, you're doing things times 2.
Yeah,
It's-
and I think rehearsals too. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we've been finding that we have to adjust our labor because
Right.
we account for another day now. So,
Right.
if it's a 5 o'clock stream, we'll try to go in the day before and then do a run through that evening with some key folks, and then the next morning as well. Because when you're on a stage, you can be the most polished on-stage speaker, but the minute you get a light 12 feet from your face
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
4 cameras in front of you and a teleprompter
Lights.
that
Cameras,
shows
yeah.
you 6 words at once.
Yeah.
It's just a different world.
Yeah.
And the training side of that is a big thing too.
And not every event, though, people ask us this all the time. We actually told somebody 2 weeks ago, like, not everybody's event can go virtual or even hybrid, truly. Or virtual only, I should say. Hybrid, yes, but it's not meant for everybody because there are so many different nuances, and they do a great job in person, but it's that, what you just said, like talking to the computer, talking to the screen, it's so different that it feels weird for them.
We've
But
had
they
to-
can't perform, right?
No, and it's new for everybody. So
Yeah.
we're all like learning together. So just getting in that new space, having them be acclimated with that platform.
Right.
And like you had said, like nonprofits, they need events. Like
Yeah.
that's how they make money.
Didn't you feel like it was I don't know, maybe this is kind of being a little philosophical, but did you feel like it was kind of our duty to be able to give back to them and to be able to help? I do. I mean, we all work so many nonprofit events, and we've got clients really all over the country. And I almost felt like it was our responsibility because we knew how to do them, right?
Yeah,
Or we were learning.
I think of like March, early April, and we had conversations like, what can we do here?
Right.
Like, what is feasible? How can we kind of lead
Yeah.
the market in it? But like, let's be creative and start. And I think once we had that kind of game plan, I would agree. I felt like I wanted to help anybody that I possibly could,
Yeah.
because we needed to be a leader and show that it's possible. And I think I'm still trying to talk to people about like, it's what we can do. I know it's different than what you've done,
Yep.
but we can still do something. And so many people can't say that right now.
Yeah, and it's not obligatory. Like it
Yeah.
was an
No, right.
opportunity for us
Exactly.
to get out
Right.
there and help those people champion those causes,
Yeah.
because we all have causes we align with
Right.
that are super important, and that fundraising aspect is crucial to
Yeah.
their success and crucial to helping
Agree.
their people.
I know Jeff and I were talking like early on, and you as well, Callie, our whole team. I mean, we were going and attending 30 plus other virtual conferences that were happening all over the world, really. So we were also learning like what things we liked, what things we didn't like, just to try to figure out what all that looks like. So I think that was also just a part of learning it. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes is by a woman named Glennon Doyle. Do you guys know Glennon? She's an incredible author. She wrote a book called Carry On Warrior. So it's about we can do hard things, right? We do. And as we kind of talk, like if we talk about like what that looks like and how we kind of imagine our life now, it is hard, right? So when Glennon says, she basically says, we can do hard things. We humans have an uncanny ability to learn. We grow, we overcome, we adapt, we rest, we change our minds, we make amends, we laugh, we blow milk out our noses when we're laughing. We plan, we cease, and we strive. There is no end to what we can do. But sometimes it feels like it's hard to do all of the things. Breathing seems like it's work, right? Yeah. And in the days, they may seem long, and the nights are to infinity, but we can do the hard things. So we just have to kind of think about those things. Like it is hard, but we can do them, right? And we do them collectively with groups and organizations and companies. So
I think
It's
that's going to be the
interesting.
thing leading into, obviously 2020 was hard, and 2021 I think has opportunity, but it's still going to be difficult. And
Yeah.
we're going to have to be open to what it's going to take, and hybrid is kind of that.
Right.
So
With that 78% of groups who can do events moving into that hybrid model, the other side that we need to look at we've got clients in LA, we've got clients all over really, and those clients, some of them can't do events, right? We've got some that are coming here. I know you guys have friends and other groups that are coming here to work as well, but 96% of those states and those groups that cannot host in person are still going to go virtual. Isn't that awesome?
Yes. And I think it's just the way that they're delivering the messages.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we have to adapt and change, and pivot seemed to be the key word for 2020.
Oh, I need a new word. What's
we
a new
all
word?
do.
You're really creative. Think of a new word.
Snake plant. About pivoting. That was a joke. We had a comment that the plant's blocking some of the slides, so we're happy to take some of those slides full screen on some of those finer text ones. But that was my plant joke.
Good
Shouts
plant
out to my
joke.
wife. Off topic.
Jess, it's your
Yeah.
anniversary, Jay, so happy
It is,
anniversary.
yeah.
and
4 years, right?
Praise in public. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yes. Everyone, Jessica Muslar on Facebook, go wish her a happy anniversary from her
I
husband.
love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sweet. A whole shout out to the world for her.
Yes.
You just can't get that anywhere. Let's move into benefits of hybrid events. So we're going to pop up a poll as well here, just so you can all kind of give us a little bit of insight of what do you feel like could be the benefits of going hybrid? Like, why are you considering making that move? I think is really what we want to know. Some people say it's to raise more funds if you're a nonprofit. Sometimes it's corporate events too that have sponsorships that are tied to it. Maybe you want to reach more people. Maybe virtual only just does not fit your model, like we've just talked about. Or if there's other pieces. So I want to have you guys kind of chime in and kind of provide us a little bit of feedback on what you guys feel. Really what that means to you.
I'm actually really interested in the answers to this one, because there are so many different ways that people are looking right now to enhance events, and so many different reasons. Could it give us some good insight for 21?
It's interesting to see how also we talked to about when we did those first virtual events and how some of that tech is outdated now, and even the way we do things differently has changed so much really over these last few months.
yeah, I think of even about 8 months ago, we did some of our kind of first real big virtual events, and it's totally different. I mean, we've obviously learned a lot too, but a lot of things have changed. There's been new opportunities that have come about that we can incorporate and engage with now. So I am interested to hear of people's feeling.
Well, you've got the readers on today.
I do.
So
I do.
you can,
That's
that's actually kind of alarming for me if I can't see the screen right now, but we'll address that another time.
We'll get you another screen. We got plenty of room.
It's okay.
But by far and large, 62% said reach more people, which we've all agreed is a major benefit. 13 virtual, because it doesn't fit our needs, the hybrid model. Then it was other was 13%.
Okay.
And raise more funds was the lowest one. And I know in our panel, Angie had said something about COVID being the reason why we would, choose to go hybrid, which that's the whole reason why we've made these shifts.
Yeah.
So it's totally going to be here for a little while. And,
Agreed.
it's our job to collaborate and create great events for our clients, no matter how we're delivering that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some of us have been impacted a lot during COVID, right? Whether it's personally or people on the professional side. And I think it is, and Angie's exactly right. I think it's trying to figure out what that balance is for you, because that virtual component might not be you, but it's also making sure that we've got everybody safe and what it looks like. But when we talk more about moving into that hybrid model, it is double the work. While it is double the work, we've got two different kinds of experiences that are happening. You've got two different audiences, so there are big, big benefits. So my top 4 benefits that I have found really, and you guys would probably resonate with these, really are extended reach, like we just talked about. Yep. And that was a big one, right, for a lot of people. I mean, we've had events that, you want to talk about some of them that have had expansive reach?
A few of ours this summer that I don't want to say I don't think they had a huge expectation, but they were literally blown away when we left the event, of thinking of like, I had maybe known that person, but I'd never thought that they would engage with my event, or there was someone that they had no idea of, but someone simply just shared the Facebook Live on their personal Facebook page. Someone connected and said, I lost someone to cancer, I wanted to donate, and now they have formed a stewardship kind of relationship piece. I mean, so the power of this, you hear those stories and you think, well, why? How can you not want to kind of engage that piece? And so I think having double the audience of you have a live group, or you have a virtual group that you can't always have with you across the country, across the world, whatever that looks like. That's a huge benefit, especially in the fundraising side.
Did you ever imagine that that's what we would be doing right now? Like trying to reach people in, like, remember the Helping Kids Around First event? We had people that were part of our event from Nicaragua, from Panama, South America. I mean, literally all over. Like, would you have ever imagined that's what we'd be doing now?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy to kind of see how it's changed.
And
right.
it'll continue, and that's the good thing is we're all developing new skills. So whether it's ourselves or the organizations we work with, these are valuable skills that are going to help continue to extend the reach, give more sponsorship opportunities, and raise more funds ultimately.
Yeah. I think the key piece too is like people are always like, oh, it's so expensive, I can't do it. Well, the thing is like hybrid events can fit any budget, really. It's just trying to figure out what that balance is. Some of our speakers have not been as expensive as they have been when they're in person, right? I mean, we've experienced that quite a bit.
Yeah, of where in some of these areas, they're obviously not able to speak at all. Some are beginning of some of these celebrity big name speakers are starting to consider some in-person events as we're leading to 2021, but it was always virtual, but which is a lot easier for them. You know, whether it's less, I don't know, I say less building out on their side, but travel, other pieces like that. It's shorter time commitment from them if it takes an hour of my time versus 2 days of travel and such and such. So that definitely helps with budget. We had a lot of groups that took advantage of that and maybe put more budget into a speaker category than they have before, knowing that it could pay off for them.
The one thing we talk about budgets is do not cancel your venues, people. Like, or do not cut those food budgets, because for hybrid events, we need it. And even when we're doing virtual streams, how many times have we filmed from so many other venues, not just here?
Often.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah. So, I mean, do not cancel those things. I think people sometimes think like, oh, it's all virtual or it's hybrid or whatever. We need to start slashing parts of budget. Well, guess what happens? It goes to your event experts. It goes to technology that you're pulling in. I mean, there's other elements that we need to use those dollars from. And that's the hard part from our conversations.
And
probably yours too.
On that note, too, I think your team's done a great job of you know, every state especially has different restrictions on how many people you can have, but you can take board members in. So it's almost as if there's a live studio audience. So even if you're doing a virtual event, to a degree, it can still be a hybrid, if you will. And you can use those BEO dollars that you may be contracted to. You can still support the venue. You can still support their staff and bring in some VIPs or some board members, you know, invite only, if you will.
Yeah, we had a lot of groups that kept the venue. We still filmed from there, but had a select group in a very safe manner. That we distanced people out, obviously mask all the protocols, but we still supplied a meal afterwards that I think went a long ways for those kind of key influentials in those groups that meant a lot to them to still have a piece of that. So I think that was a big success.
More sponsorship opportunities, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit. There are so many more sponsorship opportunities. I don't know how many that we have written and rewritten and added new, because we're finding new elements that you guys can help us to sell, so to say, on air. Like our virtual mixology for corporate or not. There are like these chat rooms. I mean, there's virtual DJ. I mean, there's literally so many different functionalities. We've done games. I mean, it's truly whatever.
And for those that cross over, double the reach, truly. I mean, double the area that a logo can be placed, double the area that it's seen by people.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many more impressions does that mean for that sponsor?
And don't worry about keeping those sponsors. A good example would be working with a group out of Athens, Georgia. We're going to go film out there next week. Actually, Jeffrey behind the camera is going to go out there. But they have, I think, 72 sponsors, which is incredible.
That is awesome.
You know, once that event's done, we'd love to kind of take some things that we've learned from them. They're an incredible fundraising group, and I was just so impressed.
Those are CPG girls.
What's that?
Is that the CPG girls?
No, this is just a group. Yeah, this is extra special people. But it's a nightmare for the graphic designer with 72 logos to treat, you know, but congratulations to them. So
there's awesome ways to be able to integrate them on screen throughout. I mean, we did, you don't know about this. I don't think we've told either of you, but we did try to sell a sponsorship for a virtual DJ, like a post-event party. And I said, one of the benefits could be the sponsor could wiki with you guys. And I actually asked Callie, I'm like, how do you spell like wiki? She's like,
I don't think that's the right term.
Put that in there. I'm like, well, that's what I call it.
And then autocorrect goes Wikipedia.
We just try to think outside of the box, truly. I mean, I think that's the thing, is you try to meet people where they are, right?
Yeah.
And sponsors, though, truly love the hybrid component, because they have, like Callie said, the double the audience, which is great.
Their value is just exponentially bigger. So they get so much more from that return.
And I think I think we had heard some feedback too of hesitancy to ask sponsors for dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there was some capacity that some of those corporate dollars were minimized, like not as much, or that they weren't able to happen. But in so many cases, groups are still willing to donate and be a part of events, and because it's truly going towards the mission. They want to make whatever they can happen for those groups, because a lot of those are tied to the mission.
It's having conversation.
Exactly.
Truly. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Just reaching where they
Being
are,
creative.
helping
Exactly.
those causes. Yeah.
Exactly.
One of my last favorite kind of benefits of going hybrid is the flexibility, truly. I think you can watch it from really your bedroom if you're participating, or your office. That's a key thing, but also flexibility in terms of like what we can do, right? And you have to be, I think, also being willing to be flexible day of, because guess what? COVID is still out there. People do not show up. Plans change. I mean, your numbers for your head count for your meal might have changed as well, but being flexible is one of the key components of a hybrid event. And if you feel like you're one of those people who are like, oh, I'm not a big change person, well, this year must suck, really, truly. Not gonna lie. But also, this is a hybrid event. You have to be willing to make those changes. We had an event in September, all of us did, where we were actually cleaning and taking linens off at every single break. Do you remember this?
Yes.
I mean, every break, sanitizing the Hilton downtown. Shout out to those guys. They were literally sanitizing every chair, every table, everything was changed after every single break. Well, it was a 2-day conference, guys. Like, it wasn't quick at all. So that's that flexibility that you need to be able to make, and being able to meet your groups and your clients where you're at.
Yeah, I think being flexible, knowing what your audience is like too, because I think at that same event, I had individuals who came to the live event for part of the morning session. Well, then people have gotten used to, I can quickly go to meetings. So they bolted for a meeting and break, but then they came back and joined us virtually. So they literally saw the event and experienced the event in both manners and in all ways. And I think that's powerful that people are still tied to it, but they have that ability to do so.
So how do they do it all, Callie? I think that's the next thing we're going to talk about, is like, how exactly do you do it? But before we do that, another poll I want to kind of hear from you all is, what causes you, I think, the most uncertainty when you're considering making your event hybrid? Because for me, in the beginning, I think it was like true heart palpitations. I'm like, is this going to happen? Like, can we do it? Are people going to come? But sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's finances, sometimes it's truly the knowledge of like what to do or how to do it. And honestly, a lot of people are probably going to hit all of the above, truly, because it's a combination.
Yeah, I think D will be overwhelming on this one.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're wrong. Hopefully we have one.
We'll see.
We got some great comments coming in here. We should pull up the chat window here and say hello to some folks. So
I thought everyone chatting it up on Facebook right now.
Yeah, I'm chatting with the tech team. I can't get that out of me. I'm so used to it.
I love it. That's what I was going to say. Like, he's still at it.
We'll show you guys some behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Chris is the talker for us usually. So, but we have Mason. He's running our social comments. So he's pulling some Facebook. So for everyone on Facebook, this is just it's going from Zoom to Facebook to YouTube to a few different Facebook pages. So we're bringing some of those comments. But Chris, we have some great clients that are giving some praise to the Event Company out here.
Oh,
really good.
So from Kendra, thinking outside the box, what Addie and Callie and the team are incredible
Kendra,
at.
thank you.
I saw Sherry from Art South Dakota on there, one of the hardest workers. She's out on West River.
That was your Rapid City group.
Yeah.
Here's our shot behind the camera.
Oh, look at everybody working hard.
Yeah, so there's Mason. He's got the 2 monitors. Well, I guess everyone's got a lot of monitors in front of them.
So the one thing that our first virtual event that we did together, people were like, "Oh, you're just not like, it's not just a cell phone on some tripods."
Yep.
Right.
Don't you think people they were like, "No, like, well, first I would probably never do that."
I'm gonna call it out because I think it's so great. But our cattlemen's group,
it was more Ryan Eichler than anything.
We switched to virtual, and this is a great scenario of where we pivoted. We kept the same date. We really worked towards it. We kept our venue, just kind of reformatted a few things, and he walked in and was like, whoa. And just was like, I was expecting either a phone or just one camera. He wasn't expecting but I mean, that was an event that truly took advantage of the aspects of the virtual side and went with it, and they saw great success and had a ton of fun.
Yeah, and it probably
doing
blew
it.
them away.
Yeah.
As far as like how great that product ended up being because of the collaboration and making sure that they could still have that event super important to them. And that's a big part of it.
Gosh, there were so many last-minute ones with that one, though. I mean, we were still pretty new into the virtual land, what it looked like, but
everything's last minute. We've been booked week of.
I know, isn't it crazy?
We had a call for tomorrow actually, but then they decided to postpone it a week, which is fantastic. So
we got
flexibility, right? So overwhelming The response was 55%, all of the above.
Yeah, we got you.
And knowledge was 21, which is why we're here. Finances is 14%, resources are 10. So good news is resources, people feel like they have the resources, but a lot of confusion across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing that when you are getting ready to make that shift, what we always kind of say is do not panic. Like, do not panic. Do not look like these ladies and this guy up on the screen. Like, let us do that for you. I mean, I think finding somebody that you can trust or even just bounce ideas off of is key. So you don't panic, but you plan. That's the key thing. So we've got just a couple steps that we kind of talk through, especially when we're coaching our clients of like, how do I make that move? Like, what does that look like? So the first one is like, find your event team, right? Find your event partners that can help make it happen. And you may come in at certain parts of the event where you're involved a little bit, or it could be a lot. Same with us too. I think for us, it's like, we just want to meet them where they need us. Right? If they're good at the fundraising, they've got a killer social media team, PR-wise, whatever, let them do that. Or if they've got the venue or enhanced tech-wise, let them, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like on your side when you're meeting people in the middle for tech-wise?
I think for us, it's like utilizing to the best of the ability what the resources they have locally, because that's always great. They know their equipment, they know their gear, they have it set up really well, and then it's our team that comes in and basically takes over that space and works with the liaison to make sure everything happens in the fashion it's supposed to produce something that's truly amazing.
Yeah,
I think we're all partners in that. I just think to all the different venues we've worked with in Sioux Falls this year. So the Hilton, the perfect example would be we like to use their screens and projectors. That makes a lot of sense. We'll use their drape in some instances. Outside the box, the Holiday Inn, we did a stream with Johnstone, and what do we use? We use their Christmas set, right? So they had their whole team come in and decorate for us. So that was, thinking outside the box a little bit. And then Alex, bless his heart, got us all like $50 steak dinners. It was awesome,
I've known that guy for a long time. I have so many stories to tell you about Alex. If he's watching, better watch out. He's a good guy. They're such a solid team.
Yep. And then the convention center does a great job as well with like stage walls, projector screens. So we love to work with venues and help share that wealth, because I think the biggest thing here is it's a scary time for the event industry, I know Chris lost some hair over this.
Had a full head last week.
You have more gray.
The venues, the musicians, everyone. So the more we can do to distribute not the wealth, but help others, so that we all come out stronger with better skill set. We can ultimately serve our clients better at the end of this.
I agree. And you guys did really a great job. I mean, kudos to you and your team. You developed a lot of the spec sheets to say, like, we need at least a 25-foot area. We need a gajillion gigabytes of internet speed. I don't really know what the number is, but a lot. All those things have changed though, but you, I think, took that initiative to start making those sheets out. So venues could say, okay, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can. Or you know what, this might not be a good fit.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to.
The Hilton added a Wi-Fi network for us. Convention Center has gigabit down.
Yeah.
So.
What's a gajillion gigabits?
A gajillion. That's a Josh Lentz question. He's a networking guy. He's a little...
Which Josh is here today too. He mic'd us all up. We were kind of joking prior to, but we usually boss other people around. Callie's like,
if you want to follow someone here to go get mic'd up, and then Justin comes to me, he's like, I'm gonna mic you up, and I'm like, what? I don't usually do this, but and I think that kind of leads into the next piece of like sourcing the venue, where we said don't skimp out on this, but do your research and figure out what the venue can look like if it meets our needs of what you're looking to accomplish. And I think bringing your event partners in that conversation is key as well. As far as the virtual side go, I think we can have a long conversation about what platforms look like.
We've seen a lot, right? A lot of virtual platforms. I mean, there's things outside of Zoom and Facebook, just so you know, people, which is great.
You could be experiencing 3 of them today if you are watching.
Oh yeah, true.
We have Facebook, YouTube, I believe, and Zoom.
So there's a lot of different capacities.
Also various sites and platforms that house.
Tell us about those platforms. So you pioneered that well. It's almost your virtual venue, if you will. It kind of replaces that. But explain that, because I don't think that it quite resonates with everyone that you need a virtual venue. That in some instances Zoom on its own isn't enough.
So when you walk into a normal venue, I mean, you would see like the registration tables and the different rooms that you have to go into, and a place where your sponsors are at or your vendors. So the virtual platforms can do all the same things. There's even some really awesome platforms out there. We work with a company called Pathable. A lot, actually. We started working with Pathable back in 2017, maybe 16 or so. So we worked with them. There's Hoova, there's Bizaboo, there's so many, literally literally 30 plus platforms. But what these platforms do is, even if you're a sponsor, for example, you can actually chat with them face to face with your attendees that are at home, or also with your virtual guests or your in-person guests as well. If they have a brochure that you need to, one of the platforms that we work with actually has a suitcase that you get to take from vendor to vendor, drop everything in there, and then at the end of the whole conference, you've got this whole suitcase full of downloads.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's awesome, but it also creates that engaging piece between attendee and attendee. You as an attendee, I can connect with you prior to the start of the event. You and I both like cats and yoga.
Yeah.
I figured,
yoga.
Yeah.
You and I can have that on our platform. Thad's laughing actually behind me right now because he's a cat and yoga person, so he's just
Chelsea
laughing.
does yoga.
So now I'm like totally off topic. Anyway, you and I like cats and yoga, and then we could notate that on our virtual platform, and you and I can have conversation ahead of time.
Right.
So it's just it's really impactful. Plus the cool part is if I'm a speaker and I'm on there, like Sean Astin, for example, from Goonies and Rudy, like we did an event with him a few months back, like he can chitty chat it up online with them as well. So there's such a whole different, I think, engagement level when you have these virtual platforms, but they are incredible for multi-day events. If you've got just a 1 hour stream, I might not suggest it,
Right.
but if you've got a multi-day conference, educational piece, whatever that component looks like, even if it's a 2-day fundraiser, that would be one definite thing I would look into is the virtual
I think
platform.
it keeps all the kind of separate scenarios together. You have your agenda.
Right.
You can still incorporate, which I think for the sponsor side, you can still incorporate kind of a trade show type experience. A sponsor gets their own booth that they can house and man,
Right.
have those conversations. There's dedicated time for them to go and visit them. So being very intentional in how we build that out to kind of curate that experience for people.
Right.
And I think it just kind of depends on the event you're looking for. Like you said, we push a lot of kind of nonprofits, the fundraising, the open platforms, Facebook, YouTube, those are great for that because you have the capacity to reach more people. But some people still, I want my private 100-person event. Zoom is great for that, or these types of platforms are great for that because we can control kind of who is able to enter and be a part of the event. So it's truly what you're looking to kind of do is how we can kind of curate that experience, and it might incorporate some capacities of all of them,
Right.
with just having those conversations.
You've learned a lot too from the virtual platform side, though.
Yeah, and it's great that we're all virtual now. We get to go hybrid, so it's going to allow us to take what we learned in the virtual space, but really bring it into that hybrid space too.
Yeah. The next thing I think that we all need to just put out there for hybrid events is safety protocols, right? One thing that I truly pride our whole team on is every corporate event that we have all been a part of, literally from day one, everybody's masked up, everybody's distance, everybody's apart. But it's having those protocols in place, but also we can all do those things, right? But we have to communicate those things to our attendees and our guests. That's one thing where I think some groups just may not be ready to say those things, or they don't know how to say it. So that's part of our job, is to kind of help to craft what that messaging is, whether it is social distance tables, whether it is all mask or not, or even just having supplies that they need there is important. Yep. We're now coaching events to say, maybe you max out your space at 150 guests, right? Sell it, sell all those seats out, do whatever you need to do, and then bring everybody else virtual, right? So you're still at your venue, you're still meeting your food and beverage pieces and going over, right, with your guest counts, but then you've got a safe audience at home to take advantage of it. Plus, you're not having empty tables, right? Isn't that the worst when you're at events? And from my standpoint, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a $45 steak, or $50 if you're with Alex. Here's a $50 steak. Here's a $50 steak. So you have all these meals that are sitting there from a nonprofit side. That like hurts my heart, but even from a corporate piece. So you just being very diligent about what those safety protocols are. And every city and state, I have to tell you, is different, truly. So we just need to make sure that you're abiding by those local guidelines and kind of moving from there.
Yeah, and it allows you to bring in virtual speakers.
Yeah.
And that's really important too.
Yeah.
One thing that's been coming up for us now is quarantine. So we have some contractors we'll bring in from like New York, for example, and there's quarantine restrictions. So even 6 months down the road, your keynote speaker might not be comfortable, or they might not be able to based on their schedule, because if they're coming in from New York City or San Francisco, and they just can't quarantine for 14 days or 7 days. So that's something to be very aware of. And I mean, you can speak to this because you've booked a lot of speakers, but it's lower cost of entry or lower barrier of price.
Is. Oh, for sure it is.
Yeah. And I think it's still, we've had a conversation with a couple events for later this year of they're considering hybrid, of looking later into 2021 and saying though, but if I have in-person guests, is it going to be the same engagement if I have a virtual speaker? Right. And I would say yes, especially if you're able to kind of increase that budget of looking at someone even a bigger or better speaker than maybe you would have been able to bring them in. But I think people are still, I think the piece that we're looking for is they want to be there together.
Yeah.
And I think the
We
speaker
all do.
piece is great to have them there, and there's obviously some conversations that we had, but we can still plan like a pre or post conversation with some of the attendees that they can have a chat with the speaker that they might not like they might get in person. So I think we can still incorporate and be creative with those things to still get that engagement from speakers like that.
What's good is they're pros too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we did a filming with Andrew Zimmern, and,
Yeah.
and we worked with their team.
That looked good.
Yeah, it was great, and that was over Zoom. But they record locally on an iPhone as well on a gimbal, and they sent us
Really?
the footage. Yep.
Wow.
We have one with Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah.
I think next week.
Yeah. Good for you.
But they're pros.
Yeah,
And,
they are,
and
right.
if you're a professional speaker, they've all pivoted too because they saw their career trajectory plummet as well.
Right.
So they got the lighting, they got the cameras,
Yeah.
they got the Wi-Fi or the Ethernet internet connection.
Yeah.
They're prepared.
Ring lights that are $79 can go pretty far, right? I think.
Less than that.
Really?
Yeah, same day
Man,
delivery
I
on
got-
Amazon too.
Oof, I spent too much then, am I? We'll see. But,
Easier than this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I
definitely.
know, all the behind the scenes. The next piece is that we need to kind of focus on is developing that engaging content. You are a content queen, I will tell you. You love the writing
content.
piece and content.
Yeah.
Talk with us through like what does that look like because it is different, right? You can't just take last year's program, last year's script, and just here we go.
No, you're going to have to, first of all, look at potentially shortening whatever you've worked with in the past. A typical gala fundraising piece that has lasted you 2.5 hours, spread out throughout the night, is not going to work in a hybrid or virtual world of where you need to kind of condense typically an hour.
Yeah.
Is where you're kind of getting the key kind of demographic and where we're seeing the most success at of where that's kind of where we like to land on those things. But it's now incorporating of, well, what if you have in-person audience, what pieces do you kick off first to then lead into kind of your key program piece? So we've kind of built out a great template. We like to segment things in smaller segments of times. We like to give on some of the wonderful graphics that Pinnacle's worked with us. We like to direct people of letting them know what's coming up next. How can we be graphically appeasing to let them know what's coming up next, key deadlines, key times, key numbers, everything they need to know. And that's a key piece to the content too, because people aren't there to see kind of the body language of it.
Yeah, talk about that because I think a lot of people don't know what, like, we know the language now of like lower thirds and bump and some of those things, but why is that important for events, do you feel like, when they're on screen?
Yeah, I think it's I'll let Chris take this.
Well, I think a lot of it, like great flow, like you had talked about creating this, and so people know what's going on. And tangent a moment, an event an hour long and virtual, like that's about max. Like a 2.5 hour in virtual, it feels like forever.
We have to take breaks, and so when we're coaching people, we just had this recently. We're like, you need 3 breaks in this session because do you sit at your computer that long?
No, I mean, most people can't.
Yeah, it's just like,
and we missed that relationship part of the 2.5 hour live event. So like we try to condense, but like those bumps, those lower thirds, really, it's about flow. It's about proper recognition.
What's a bump or a lower third for everybody?
Well, a lower third is when when Addie's talking or I'm talking.
We'll take some.
Yeah, we'll take
There'll be a lower third that pops up.
Pop up Chris's title. Yeah, that's not title; it just says Kristen's while it's on Addie.
There we go.
That's a lower third.
That's a lower third right there. So it just, who is that person speaking? Why should you be listening? Credentials. Like there's a lot of things that you can do with that to really add some precedent.
Social comments. Mason, if you have a Facebook comment you can pop in, we'll see if he can do it on the spot.
I love how he's just bossing, like doing his job right here during a whole webinar.
That's the thing too with virtual events. It's if you ever watch like a late night talk show, they talk to their camera crew all the time. They bring them on stage, so it's part of the experience. People enjoy seeing it.
I think people enjoy seeing the raw aspect of it. We kind of say we share kind of behind the scenes looks of what we've got going on.
Stacy, Figtails, we love her. Look at that.
And that's what gets the most engagement. People love seeing what it takes to produce something to this quality, to this extent, because it's so, in a lot of ways, foreign to a lot of people too. So
you're used to seeing it like on a newscast, right, where they come up, but now it's happening in this land, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you can do that!"
It's different than TV, but I don't watch TV the same anymore.
No,
I got a YouTube Pro TV's $69 a month subscription just so I could watch back some award shows that were done virtually, right?
That's awesome.
So it's today, just watch your television a little bit differently. Look at the graphics at the bottom. Look at what your news station does. Look what the award shows do. Look what America's Got Talent does, right? And you can start incorporating those elements for your virtual audience. It's a standard in television broadcast, and we might not do it to that extreme, but it's part of it.
It's the engagement piece of it.
Yeah, and the expectations have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And my last little bit on content I think I want to touch on is the power of stories, I think, are becoming more and more prevalent.
I agree.
We obviously are having to condense these programs and these messages into shorter periods of time. But in that period of time, we need to make a bigger impact. And truly, and obviously now in pandemic world, people want touching stories. They want to see how dollars raised, what it's being impacted on. They want to hear from someone who's been impacted by maybe the nonprofit or how they've helped them. I mean, it's truly sharing stories. We've seen a lot of really pieces on interviews. People want to have conversations and they want to connect.
That's the key thing.
And so being intentional when you're developing content and incorporating those pieces and not just having someone up there to talk. We need engagement. We need interaction. We need that impact.
So that all goes in line with the building of the marketing plan. Really, like your marketing plan is that those stories will help to sell the event. Like plans now are so much more robust than ever. Like for today's session, we sent out 3 separate emails to all of those that were attending via Eventbrite. So when they purchased or got their ticket, they got 3 separate emails. So that is so much more than it has ever been because you don't have that physical ticket in front of you or that lanyard or whatever it happens to be. So you have to be more purposeful in what that plan looks like. So it is a lot more robust than it has ever been.
Yeah, extra communication. We don't think, but I'm guilty of it myself even in the event world of we've signed up for various webinars or events and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'll RSVP. And then I get to the event and I have it on my calendar. I'm like, ooh, where's my link?
Yeah, I know.
And
Part
it's like we need it. Yes, exactly. That's how people are operating right now.
Yep.
People are operating days before instead of months before anymore right now. So everything needs to be top of mind, fresh. So that's why it needs to be repeatedly communicated with them.
Right.
Well, we've already talked to the last little piece is flexibility. I think that's kind of the big thing is we just need to be flexible, I think, in all of our plans right now. I think that's a key thing when we're moving in. But talking more about, when you are finding those right event partners, like the next pieces are so pivotal to hosting a really kick-ass hybrid event. Right. So one key thing that we kind of talk about is like there is little margin for error, like very little room for error. Your tech has to be spot on. Mics need to be where they are. Like you can't just pull out your Mickey Mouse microphone and start talking, right? Yeah. So like I'm like, I have a karaoke machine downstairs in the basement. Is that going to work? It's not going to work.
Hybrid time too on this one.
Yes.
I think of us at our few hybrids we've had already of where it's like I'm watching the speaker who is there in person with me and they start to pause like something's wrong, and then I also think about the like virtual audience and if something goes wrong you can't forget about one side of it. You have to truly give your focus to both sides at all the time, and that requires staff and manpower and resources, but it'll make the event successful.
Right. And anticipating all of those things that
Yes,
could happen.
exactly.
I think that's something we've been really good collectively at doing.
Yeah.
And then on that note too, it's don't forget about your virtual audience with hybrids. And,
Exactly.
I'm not gonna no specific example stands out, but I've seen a lot of streams go out there where they put maybe a videographer in the room with a camera, but they don't get a correct audio feed, or they don't get a feed from the PowerPoint correctly so that no one can see the slides. It's just a blown out screen in the background, if you will. So that matters, and that's where tech might cost a little bit more because now we need control over your presentation computers. Right. We need to interface with all your presenters in advance, so that we can take that PowerPoint feed, split it out to the house venue projectors, but also to the virtual audience, whether it's a side-by-side look or a full screen look like we're doing today. It all matters.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, we cannot forget about them. And that goes along with like no event is the same, right? Every single one of these virtual events and hybrid events have not been the same, truly. There have been some similar components and similarities between them, but I think trying to figure out like, that's one of the cool things that you guys can all do is like make it happen, right? Do something different. It's fun because sometimes we'll dream up these crazy things and then you're like, yeah, we can do that. But what about this? It's on steroids, right? So it's like trying to marry those together, but the same applies to your virtual audience. So hybrids, you can do it truly. Yeah. So
I think it gives you an opportunity to play, be playful, and see what's going to work best for that brand. And if it aligns with the vision, we're all in a new world. Right. Why can't we play with it a little bit? Yeah. Kind of push it.
And leave it to us, right? Like, I'm not trying to say we're the experts, but I think we are. I don't mean it in that way, but
Yeah, well, I
I feel like we have a good pulse on things.
yeah, wherever
Right.
you're at in whatever parts of the country, you can connect with those individuals in your market, right? I mean, show the love to your local market as well. And I think connecting with those people that know how to do it is great. We always talk about you do what you do best, we do what we do best, and it's this awesome marriage, right?
Right.
That's how you make it happen.
When it's all about collaboration, not
Yeah.
competition. It's about getting the best of both worlds and creating something great for our clients.
That just sounds like a bumper
collectively.
sticker.
It should be. But that's the expert part, right?
Yeah. Now, there's 4 elements to that are key to hosting a successful event: content, community, as well as sponsorships, both for-profit and nonprofit, and then overall event strategy. Callie's kind of touched on briefly here about what that content means and why that's important. But community is also, like Jeff had said, we cannot forget about that audience. Yep. So to kind of bring everything back together, is these are the 4 successful components when you are going and making that switch into hybrid. If you don't have these 4 or don't feel like you can make it happen, then you maybe need to consider something else. Yeah. You don't have to have sponsorship, but maybe there's donations, or maybe there's other pieces, or ticket prices, right? I mean, we always talk about ticket prices, like what does that look like for hybrid events? So just need to take some of those things into consideration. But that strategy has to be key. We all need to know, like one of the key things that we talk about is how are we measured? Like what metrics are we all using to measure success? For us, is it number of bodies that are on that stream? You know, like we all call back, we're like, oh my gosh, there's 700 people watching, or there's 400 people watching, or there's 4. So that's, I think, one thing. But for us, it's more about the quality of the people that are participating. It's not usually those numbers that we see.
We want to see comments. We want
Right.
to see, obviously,
feedback.
Funds raised might be a big impact too.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, I would say a lot of our, especially nonprofits, have seen, what percentage of new donors did I secure?
Yeah,
Right.
oh, it's so
huge
awesome
thing.
to see those pieces, or new attendees.
Yeah.
Like one of our August events, the ones that we had with a group in August, we had people from 33 states and 8 countries that were a part of this event in Little Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You know, I mean, nobody would have ever thought those things. So that's the cool piece of just trying to figure out how you can capture other individuals by going either that virtual side or the hybrid. But
Right. That innovation's
Yeah.
so key there.
yeah,
Those are 4 really great cornerstones to
Right.
any foundation of a great event.
yeah.
You could have, the best speakers in the world, but without all 4 of those pieces,
You don't, yeah, it's not going to work.
yeah, something's going to fall flat.
So one of our first virtual or hybrid events that we hosted was just in September here with our group at Prairie Family Business Association. It was so great. They actually had attendees from 405, or they had 405 attendees from all over the country. I think it was like 19 different states. We used one of our virtual platforms called Pathable, we talked a little bit about before, but that's where everybody congregated. They had hundreds of conversations all online, which was so awesome. But should we show a little bit behind the scenes?
Yeah,
Could we do
why
that?
don't you direct our team behind the scenes?
Oh my gosh,
It's
I
Josh.
had it-
Josh is in charge of this. So.
Okay, Josh, do I say cue the tape? Cue the tape. Josh, cue the tape.
She means the video from Prairie Family Business. We'll get that queued up here in a second.
This is funny.
There it goes.
Let's go behind the scenes.
Yeah, should we cut to behind the scenes camera? No, not yet. All right, we'll do that in a little bit here.
Why don't we talk through, I do want to go behind the scenes because I think that's so impactful to see, but why don't we talk through some common questions that we get? And then I want to hear from you guys. I know, can we go behind the scenes now?
Yeah.
We're ready? Okay.
Let's do it.
So, Jeffrey, come
So this is a common question, actually.
What does behind the scenes
So this
look
is
like?
a common question. So
Yeah.
people ask, oh, that's a real close-up. A common question is like, what does it look like behind the scenes? Like Callie had mentioned before, it's not just one camera. We've got a roaming camera. We've got Thad that's static over here. We've got Mario that's static, and he just does a lot of stuff, everything all back there. But then we've got a whole production team. So our team is kind of behind here helping to moderate. There's Natalie. She is running the teleprompter. Emily is helping to run chat. So is Paige here. Then if we might go to the tech room.
Head on back there, Jeffrey, through our hallway.
So we are filming today from the Pinnacle Productions studio, which we usually just call our studio, to be honest with you. But we've got our entire tech team back here as well. You want to kind of, there we go. We've got Mason. There we've got Josh and Justin. There they go.
Oh, good one, Justin.
But look at all the tech. Look at all those cameras. So they're moderating all of those and monitoring. I can't even talk now. All of those cameras there. Look at all that. That is not just an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive than an iPhone.
It's like backup and backup and backup and backup.
So that's probably
redundancy.
Yes, correct.
That's our maybe overused word. And the first time you have something fail live on camera, you'll invest the money into having two of everything. So whether it's 2 internet connections, LTE hotspots that bond everything together, multiple cameras, so we never bring out one camera. We'll always bring a backup camera. 2 different computers that play the same video at the same time, and we always have 2 servers, if you will, that are streaming the same content, so that if or when a software or something crashes, we're prepared.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's why, I mean, when you're streaming to those multiple platforms as well, I think people are like, oh, what happened? Oh, nope, we're on YouTube, which we had happen once. We had something fail, and it will happen. So I just read the other day, there will be about 35% of events out there have some type of tech issue. If it's a glitch, people might not know it. Like you all at home might not see those things, but we know that it happened from behind the scenes. And that's our job, is to kind of keep it quiet and you just roll and go.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the big thing when you're partnering with someone, making sure that they give you that peace of mind. Because at the end of the day, Jeff kind of alluded to it, like you would give any amount of money to not have that glitch happen if you could any way, shape, or form avoid it. So that's part of the peace of mind that we try to provide all our clients and make sure that it's not just an iPhone on a gimbal.
It's also your brand. Like you're fundraising for dollars, you're hosting a conference, whatever it is, like it is your brand, right? People will tune out if it does not look good. If there is that redundancy piece, if things just are not flowing, right? They're going to be out. You have 6 minutes to capture them. 6 minutes, that's it. So if we can't do it within that 6 minutes, you might as well say, ta-ta, that money's in the drain. So we just have to be a little bit more mindful. But
and I think that's why it's so important to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to work and everything is well thought out. And you can anticipate those challenges and those needs, whether it's lighting, whether it's microphones, whatever. There's lots of potential problems, and it's our job to work through that.
I think looking back at like where we were just at here, I think I've always seen, as we're kind of guiding clients, of what do they expect when they're participating? They're like, well, how do I see what's going on next? And so I can kind of explain here. You saw 4 TVs and a teleprompter, which people kind of are always surprised that we have a teleprompter, but we truly do. And there's 4 screens that show what attendees are seeing. They'll see their PowerPoint slides. They'll see chat questions. They'll see everything that need to be so that they can be prepared to handle anything that may come their way as well, or any abrupt changes. So we're constantly trying to be prepared is the key word. For any possible scenario.
For hybrids. So hybrids, traditionally, it's a confidence monitor. So you look down at the floor monitors, or for a live event, if you will. So for hybrid, what does that look like? Probably not a teleprompter, because you're kind of focused on the audience. But what will we add? We'll add in more monitors so that we can feed you audience questions. If we don't want to unmute them on Zoom and put them through the house sound system, we'll feed you questions. We'll show you some Facebook comments, and then experts like you will build that into the script so that the people on stage will acknowledge this.
We even sometimes we'll have individuals from the group who will be taking questions from the live studio, but then they'll have an iPad or another mobile device that they'll be able to see questions from the chat from the virtual platform too, that they can ask the speaker on their behalf. So there's lots of ways we can incorporate the two.
This is a good segue of questions. So we've got just a couple minutes left, you guys. It's almost been an hour. I want to hear from you guys. I know we've got some questions out there, so let's kind of...
Lavani said,
let's kind of hear them.
Can you speak to transitions? They are often clunky in many hybrid or virtual events.
Yeah, well, you can talk from your side, and I'll talk from our side because we kind of queue them up. But
well, I think the main thing is making sure that we're thinking about how it's being delivered, whether it's on the virtual event, how are they saying these things, and then be able to pre-plan some of those. I think part of it is, rehearsing, being practiced, knowing your content, making sure that you are very cognizant of the audience in person and in the virtual realm. And that will help a lot with the clunkiness. But as people are doing this more and more often, and they're used to seeing things that are happening on a super high level, I feel like now there's kind of a roadmap. where we have best practices, and
That's what I was
so
just
it's
gonna
getting
say.
less clunky.
Like before they even step into the studio or step into that virtual area, we do an extensive training with them where it's like 21 different slides, and it sounds like a lot, but we have to talk to them about everything because hybrid is so different. Like you might wear some crazy loud shirt on stage or whatever. That is so distracting to a virtual audience. It's just going to get, well, first of all, it's going to get all crazy, but it's just not what it needs to be. But also they have two different audiences that they have to play to as well. So they as a speaker can't forget about them, like you had said earlier. So we do need to take questions from the audience and do different things. So yeah, Vani, that's a really good question.
I think as transitioning goes, building your content accordingly. I think of my sense of how do I put videos in certain locations, because those are great transitions if you have to transition out speakers.
Right.
Sure.
Or we can be creative with graphics of where I can pull up a quick graphic. That gives me 10 seconds to get someone off camera, another person on. Those are things that your event partners can surely help you to kind of creatively craft to hopefully kind of avoid the clunky transition and like not seeing anyone on camera for 15 seconds. That's what I'd like to avoid.
Right.
So I think just thinking creatively of how I can use videos, photos, things like that to get people on, off, make smooth transitions.
Awesome. Good question. Another question that we've got literally probably 1 minute left that we always get is there recorded content? Like, can I get it recorded? We get that a lot. Yes, you just need to let us know ahead of time, right? I think that's the key thing. It's just we need to know those pieces ahead of time. Right. So we've got servers, we've got literally the bandwidth to be able to do it. That's, I think, the key piece. But people ask us a lot of those things.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very important asset that you have when you are doing the hybrid or the virtual too.
Yeah.
How can you use that later? How can you add value to your organization or your associations by having that content be deliverable?
Right.
So,
any other questions that we need to? I think we got a lot of them answered.
Thank you, Wendy, for being here.
Oh,
as
Wendy.
well.
Yeah. Wendy Julie.
Yeah, awesome.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Jamie and Mitch, thank you guys for joining.
Yeah.
Look at
Jamie
everybody.
goes, no event is the same. No event.
It is not.
Amen.
It is not.
Amen.
Well, remember, like I had shared a little bit earlier about Glennon Doyle's quote of like, we can do hard things and we can do it together. I think that's kind of the key thing of our team's got you no matter where you're at, or we've got friends across the country that have you. So I think connecting with people to just make it happen and just open up the conversation is really the key thing.
Yeah.
But
open-minded about all the things you can do
right.
in this scenario.
Well, on behalf of our team at the Event Company, we thank you. On behalf of Pinnacle Productions, thank you for hosting us here today. And thank you to all of you. Now, hopefully you feel a little bit easier about going hybrid, so you can say easily, hello, hybrid.
Wave to Jeffrey.
Bye.